Well, hello, and welcome, everyone. It is LaShawn and Renee Summers coming to you on this Tuesday evening. I am super excited about having this lady with us on today. So, for those of you who are just joining us, please make sure that you go ahead and share this on your page. I think I'm getting some feedback. So, just a second here. We're going to get this tech stuff right. But I hope you guys are having an amazing Tuesday. I know some of us are gearing up for snow. So hopefully that won't cause problems for us. But I do believe we need to be getting ready for something to happen on this upcoming weekend. So we are here, Renee. Just to tell you, for you guys who are new to my page, may not know who I am, I'm LaShawn Williamson, and I am a wife and a proud mother of 5. I have 7 beautiful grandchildren. I am an entrepreneur. I own several businesses. And I just like helping people find solutions to their problems. And that's why I'm here today, because Renee and I have been longtime friends. We are business partners, and we are sisters in Christ, most importantly. But we talk about a lot of things as it relates to people and life issues that they're having. And it can go from a spectrum of health, and then it can go to just what they're going through in life with marriage, and then also with us who are in care of aging parents. And so when we get on this topic, it really pulls at Renee's heart chords, because she actually is a subject matter expert when it comes to estates and family planning in that area. So we were talking about some things this week, and I said, Renee, I know you're about to have this workshop, and there's some people who need to know about what you're going to share so that they can fill those last few seats. One thing I love about Renee is when she does these workshops, she doesn't take a large number of people, because she's very hands-on in making sure that people are getting what they need. So I wanted to just bring her up and just talk about a few things that might strike some chords of your own. And I hope that you will share this live with someone, because it will be, available for replay. And we definitely want to get that class full. I think you have about 5 seats left. So let her come on and talk to you a little bit about who she is. And I really, Renee, would like for you to share with them why you do this, and how did it come about that you even started doing something like this. So let me turn it over to her real quick. I'm gonna spotlight you, lady.
Hello there. How is everyone doing? I hope you're doing wonderful today. I am Renee Summers, born and raised here in North Carolina. Lived in Greensboro, North Carolina, practically all my life. Just recently moved to the Kernersville, Winston-Salem area, but still home girl. Been married a long, long time. Let's put it that way. Married in 1987. Yeah, 37 years. And so, yeah, it's a lot going on, but I was blessed. We got 2 wonderful children. My daughter's married, and I got 3 beautiful grandsons. My son got engaged. Actually, he had a beautiful engagement party back in September. So he's engaged. So now we're getting these kids growing up, we're getting grandkids. And if it's any time like the present, it is now to start thinking about your estate. You don't need to wait till you just said what I did. You already got the grandkids here. You can do it prior to that, but you definitely want to do it while this is happening. Okay. While that grandparents' kids are growing up, and you want to leave that inheritance. How I came about this? That was a great question, LaShawn. I came about it, as you could say it this way, living life. I began to take care of my mom and dad when they started getting elderly. And as I did, I just learned along the way. So as I was taking care of them, as far as their health, as far as if, just doing stuff financial when they couldn't get to a place or take care of the things that they needed to, whatever it was, I started doing it. So I learned a lot about, didn't realize how much it was estate planning until years later, and the impact of the things that I did. And actually, it was called to you, LaShawn Williamson. I happened to be talking to you several years ago, and I was talking about things, and I was telling you some things to get it or your family. You was like, "How do you know all this?" And I said, "Don't the average person?" You were like, "No." And I said, "Really?" That overwhelmed me right there, because my assumption was everybody knows estate planning. They come to find out very few people know about estate planning.
Yeah. And it's not that it's difficult to understand. It's just something people don't want to have to deal with, you know, because who wants to focus on end of life care? Who wants to focus on life after the death of your loved one? Who wants to, you know, bring up those subject matters to their family members? And the reality is, those are the hard conversations that I know now than ever I need to go on and be having with my parents, because I have seen so many families fall apart, Renee, because things were not in place when their loved one passed on. And I am like, we got to do something. We've got to do something, because that's when things can really get ugly. And they don't have to. Things can be made. My first lady, founding first lady, Barbara Lockett, she used to say, if it's not written, it's not said. And so, you have all of these backdoor conversations, sideline conversations that, the parents feel that that's sufficient enough, that as long as we'll be fine. But they don't realize that doesn't stand up in court at all. When, well, you told Johnny that he was supposed to have this, that you wanted Johnny to have this and Mary to have this. And, it's all verbal, but that doesn't stand in court. So the reality is, if there is no plan for an estate, the state has a plan for
Bingo.
your estate.
Yeah, they got a plan. They have it well written out. They have it documented. The thing about it is, most people are not proactive. Most people are reactive. We react. Oh my gosh, this has happened. What do we do? Running here and running there. You're not proactive. Proactive, you're doing nothing but putting things in order, so that when things do happen, you got that much that you don't have to have. It's whenever a person dies, it's enough that people deal with the emotional grief of losing a loved one. But if you inject that with paperwork, documentations, follow-up calls, all these other things, it gets extremely overwhelming.
So, as you're talking about everything, I'm sorry if you hear, do you hear any background noise?
I don't.
Okay, great. So, when you're talking about having those things in place, that's one of the things that you go over in your workshops, like what things need to be in place. And believe it or not, for those who say, well, my parents have a will, the question is, do you know where it is? How to access it? Right? So these are some of the things that she goes over. And when I was talking to her about making sure people understand that just because you have things, maybe how can I put it? It goes back to the verbal. If it's just verbal, it will not stand in court. It will not stand. And that's one of the biggest things. So what are some of the things that people need to make sure that they have in place?
You spoke the first thing, you talk about a will. And one thing that you said a lot of times you might ask your loved ones, do you have a will? And they may reply yes. And then the next question is, oh, okay. Then as do you have someone, one of your loved ones, that knows exactly where it's located? They may say yes, but there's another part to that. Is it secure? You got to remember, you got to know what secure home storage looks like. There's a way you have to file those type of documents. Okay? Then in addition to that, the will is not the only thing you need. There are a lot of other documents that are going to come out that you're going to need when a loved one dies, although they have a will. Where's the car title? Do they have a car title? If they don't, are they paying for the car monthly? Who do they pay that to? Who do they pay their mortgage to if the house is not paid for? If they don't have a deed to their property, who's the mortgage holder? How do you contact the mortgage holder? Where is that information? And recently, I just had somebody call me today because they're calling me in reference to this class. And she goes, this person is having this issue currently right now. She knows somebody that the parent died and they went to just try to pay some of the bills. Now what we do is everything is what on digital, you know what I'm saying? Your document, everything is on a website. What's the password? They didn't know the passwords. They didn't know how to access nothing because everything is technical now. We live in a technical world. So, did you know you need to have that written down? And as I said, where do you place these items? This is where I go.
I'm glad you said that because, we are an electronic society now. And so for those who do have emails, like who knows how to access your email account, right? Who knows your passwords? Who knows your account numbers? Which brings me to, if something were to happen where, okay, your loved one has not passed, but they're in a situation where they can't handle their affairs because mentally they may be incapacitated, or I don't know. Let's talk about what needs to be in place while they are living.
Great question. Power of attorney. There are two types of power of attorneys. One is called a durable power of attorney. That has to do with the money financially, so that upon that loved one may have surgery. Due to the surgery, that loved one needs to be in home, in the bed, can't really do a lot of things for themselves. However, they still got to pay their light bill, their gas bill, their water bill. They still need to contact. You could, if you have a durable power of attorney, you could easily call and state to that insurance company, that, a mortgage company, whomever, I have this. You would submit that document in, and you could call and say, what is due on mom, dad, auntie, cousin, whomever it is you're taking care of. I have power of attorney. They'll see that, and you can take care of everything for them as far as their financial stability. Next, you do a healthcare power of attorney. Healthcare decisions are very important. You got an auntie, grandparent, uncle, whomever you may be taking care of, dad, and that dad becomes ill to where he may be going through some mental health issues. And we have things like Alzheimer's, dementia, things of that sort. If you already have a healthcare power of attorney, and they start saying, well, we're going to put them on this type of medication. Sometimes elderly person can't really think. I don't know why the doctor put me on that, or I'm not for sure which one he said. You could call and say, or you can go to the doctor. Either way, you can contact that doctor's office and say, tell me the name of that medication. Tell me how it's supposed to be prescribed to that, my uncle, my aunt, my dad, whomever it is. tell me how this needs to be done, and they will walk you through it. And if it's something that you may not prefer, you know, my aunt is breaking out in a rash over this. I have healthcare power of attorney. I don't want her to take product A because it's causing her a rash. Could y'all check her again and try to find her a substitute medication? But if you don't have any of that, you might can take her to the, you know, go to the doctor office with her and do it. However, you have the right that you could call and immediately intercept that, without having to do, because auntie might not be feeling well enough to leave the home or whatever it may be. And if auntie has to be rushed to the hospital, uncle, whomever, they're rushed to the hospital. All at once, this surgeon comes out and starts talking about things they want to do. If you don't have no power of attorney, all you can stand there and say is, are you sure? But it gives you authorization to be able to say, hold on, let's make sure. Tell me exactly what's going on. Why do you want to operate? It gives you all that type of authority.
And I'm glad we're talking about this because I'm in a season right now where I realize that it's important to have that in place because you said, the medical professionals will be courteous to some degree if they know it's your mom, it's your dad, and you're there with them. But when things progress and decisions have to be made as far as their care, and your loved one is not able to make decisions for themselves, they don't have to honor what you say if you don't have healthcare power of attorney. Is that true?
That's correct.
They can consider what you say, but at the end of the day, you cannot make any demands. And you may think because you've been there, they know you've been coming to every visit, you were there for the beginning to the end or whatever, that you are, they will honor what you are requesting, not in every case. And so the best thing to do is to have something in writing. And the good thing you said is once you've been to a hospital and you've shown that healthcare power of attorney, then in that hospital, I guess, system for that patient, it's already documented across the board.
Correct.
So if anything happened, they know that they have the right to discuss things with you.
5 months later, something happens again. All they're going to do is pull up the computer system and they're going to see that name and that power of attorney and they're going to say, okay, what do you need to know? And in addition to that, say that auntie's at the hospital, you're at work, but you want to call and check on her and see what's going on. They're not going to give you that information unless, and let's say, they say, well, I'll call a room, but you might call the room and that person's not able to talk. You could call and say, I have healthcare power of attorney. They'll pull it up. They'll see who it is, verify. Okay. They'll tell you anything you want to know. Yes, she's resting. Yes, the doctor has decided to do these number of things to her health. See, that gives you all that authority. So you could still be not there directly, but you can know everything that's happening there directly.
Yeah, because I know those doctors will come and make their rounds, like in teams early in the morning. And if you're not spending the night with your loved one in a hospital, and when they come around, they're coming to discuss something with your loved one, that let's say that they are there mentally, but you want to be included in what the conversations are, then if that is in writing that you have the healthcare power of attorney, then they know that they're supposed to call if it's on conference speaker or whatever, as long as your loved one is there. That's good to know. So Renee, let me see. There was something else. Okay. When we are caring for our loved ones and we have to consider in-home care, right? Some people run into using like they'll get the what do you call it, skilled nurses and to come in to give care. Talk about that because I know that you kind of had a situation with your mom, and this is why this is really important to you.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. One thing I tell people is, some people learn things through, don't get me wrong, through books and literature. I learned all this stuff through doing it. Okay.
Mhm,
I've
mhm,
been through all this stuff. It's called Medicaid Recovery. A lot of times when you have an elderly parent, they begin to health decline. Where, as a matter of fact, I got somebody right now that is talking to me about this exact scenario. The health declines. Well, when the health declines, they begin to say, okay, they're going to need some in home care. Now, certain people are proactive and they may have some type of other type of supplemental insurance or something, how they advertise on TV, things like that, that can help you, that would provide in home care. Well, if you're not set up like that, next thing they're gonna look at is what's something out there that the government might allow us to do. Government says, okay, you might apply for Medicaid. When you get Medicaid, they're going to do like a what they call sort of like a spin down on your financial portfolio. And if that family member who's using that, they come in, they say, okay, we've got these services approved. That's how they did my mother. The nurses came in and said, okay, guess what? We're going to provide her somebody that comes, a CNA that will come every day to help her, a nurse that comes and checks on her. Even they had, think about it, they had two types of therapists, physical therapists and occupational therapists. So I'm elated. Didn't know what Medicaid recovery was. All at once, my mother dies, and I get a letter that states that due to the fact that your mother used these services, we need this X amount of dollars for these services provided. And in order to recoup that, you can't pay. We're placing a lien on her property for thousands of dollars. Now, there was three criterias that you can do to try to see if you could, you know, let's just say, not have to have that to happen. Okay. However, they're very, 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 very tight. The average person is not going to qualify because what they're going to tell you, I guarantee you, the average person is not going to have an order. And I go over these with people when they teach my class. When they take my class, when I teach that class, I go over all these categories. But I happen to have one of those categories, and I said, oh, and I went in, I filed the paperwork, I did everything. They sent me a letter and said, you've been exempt from paying thousands of dollars. However, I said, wow. Well, I didn't think about later on down the road, people need to know this. And this is what happens. It's called Medicaid Recovery. There's called a 5-year look back, what I explain people what that means. So what there is, there's certain things that have to be done 5 years before you ever try to use Medicare that you can have in order and in place prior to that. But if it's not before those 5 years, then they got a right to put a lien on your property,
wow,
or any other kind of way they can try to recoup money from you.
mhm, wow, wow. Well, that's what I love about your workshops because they're very informative. People walk away from there knowing steps to take. The first time that we did this, who gets what, that was really the focus of the conversation when we did our first one. Because, when it comes to writing out the will, there's certain ways or things that people need to make sure are spelled out within their wills, like who's the executor, executress, all of that, right? But I think one of the main things for me of why I want to do this is because I have aging parents and there's a lot of assumptions. And we just don't realize how much of a responsibility there is to make sure that you know your parents' affairs in the event that something happens and they cannot function mentally for themselves, it's important that you have everything in place so that you can be their advocate. That's the main thing. When we had our first class that you did, you were talking about the importance of, being on accounts with your parents. And some parents like, I don't want you in my business like that. Because some of us have older parents, but they still,
They
they
want to
they
take care
they
of
with it, right? But it needs to be someone who they can trust.
you.
And then I think now I'm hearing of cases where just because your name is on the account doesn't mean that you can go in and do all the things that you would think you could do. Because as soon as that death certificate is filed and notifications go out to all of their creditors or whatever, accounts start getting closed, right? So if you're not on those accounts and you're not, even if you are on the account, well, no, let me see. If you're not on the account and the account gets closed, how are you going to get access?
That's what it is.
Talk about that just a little bit, especially like these bank accounts.
Yes. What people don't realize is this. First of all, I talked about durable power of attorney. That's only good while they're living. After they die, it's null and void. So if they got a bank account, now I'm not gonna name a particular bank, but they got a bank account with, the bank, and you might say, oh, well, that lady remembers I came and brought my mom in every day. They don't care about that. What they care about is, do you have what is called a POD? A lot of people don't have that. It's payable on death. And what that does is, it is where there is a beneficiary named on that bank account. So it's paperwork that will be done. The bank will give it to you. They'll have your loved one sign it, and they'll sign it. It's a bank account. It's an automatic transfer to the beneficiary upon the death on all account owners. So it's passing over to the beneficiary. It transfers to the beneficiary. So it's kind of like you're putting a beneficiary over your bank account, but that's only in the case of the death.
Wow.
That's why it's called a POD, payable on death. And you can do that because, remember, the will is going to state different things you're going to go through for all the stuff. But if that's the case and you need to go on and, pay bills or funeral, whatever it may be, you can go ahead and get that money in that bank account immediately, as long as you got a POD.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Wow.
most people don't know that.
That's free information you got right here tonight. That's very valuable. But you get that and more. So talk to them about when you're going to be starting your workshop and how they can get registered for your workshop.
Yes, fantastic. Our workshop starts Monday coming up, January the 13th through January the 16th. It actually will be nightly. It's guess what the wonderful thing is? It's virtual. So you can do it from the comforts of your own home. You sign on 7 p.m. We go to 7 to 8 p.m. I do an hour for 4 nights in a row. And then it's a 15-minute Q&A. And if it pivots, we pivot. If it goes a little bit, that's okay. But because I want to make sure you get what you paid for. Okay. So I'm running a special. I'm going to I normally charge $197. I'm doing this first of the year. And I'm big on wanting to get the word out to the average American. Okay. I want to get the word out. A lot of people, that I know are losing their homes to gentrification. Okay.
Talk about that. What is gentrification?
Gentrification is what's happening every day. Okay. You got these home sections that at one time, when the area where I grew up it was little houses with people on one side of town that nobody had nothing to do with. Let me just put it that way. And you had your little house and your little corner of land, and that was good. What's happening now? Gentrification is this. There are investors and there are Europeans and things like that that are coming out, and they're saying what we're going to do is we're going to buy a couple of homes in that area. So they might buy 2 houses in your area. They're going to renovate those houses and fix them up, add a new style bathroom, update the kitchen, the appliances, everything's going to look nice. May even put new vinyl, whatever the outside appearance is going to look even better. Fix it up. Well, when they fix it up, they're going to do one or two things. Most of the time, they're going to sell that house. Okay. When they sell a house, they're going to sell it. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to sell it a lot more than the average house in that area normally sold for. So you might say, well, fantastic. Yeah, it can be good. Because now you can think, well, that means my house value is what? It's going to go up. However, what's going to go up with it is called property taxes. And when property taxes go up, now you might have been used to paying $600 a year. Now you might be paying $1,200 a year. So what happens? Your mortgage will go up. Or if your mortgage payments don't go up because you say, well, my house is paid for. Guess what? That still means every year you got to pay an increase in taxes. And most people haven't set money aside for that. Now they're going to go back and the investor's going to watch. And he's going to try to get another house in that neighborhood. And he's going to take that one. And maybe guess what he might say? I'm going to fix this one up and I'm going to rent it out. Now, when he starts renting it out, now, guess what? He's going to rent out a lot more now than everybody else is paying in that area. So now people want to step it up because they say, well, hey, wait a minute. If they're renting that house out for that, that means the value of their property, taxes, everything going to go up on that one too. However, now they own the house that used to be somebody else's property that didn't look like them. I'm just being honest. So gentrification is this. They're moving in your neighborhoods, they're buying your properties, and they're upgrading them to where 9 times out of 10, your taxes are going to go up. You're not going to be able to afford them because you're not going to come together as a family on one accord and keep that property. Now you're not expecting that. Now you can't afford the taxes. Now, guess what? You're going to sell that house property and they're going to keep until eventually they're going to own all those properties and they're going to rent them back out to the people that were staying there 20 years ago, 40 years ago. That's gentrification.
It's hard. It's hard because I see it, especially, my husband and I working down east, and we see these homes where, you have a small home that's had some wear and tear and maybe families living in there. And then right beside it is a beautiful home that has been renovated, or they tore down the original home and have built it up. And what the houses are selling for versus the little houses right beside it. I'm like, so what happens to that family when it comes tax time? Right? They're not going to be able to pay the taxes. They're going to have to leave.
They're going to say your land is worth the same thing their land is worth.
Right.
It's the dirt.
See,
that's why I tell people I know my dirt.
I tell you the truth.
It's the dirt.
It's hard to see it, but that it is happening. We see it in neighborhoods where they're just coming up and they're taking one house at a time. I was looking at a house I was riding in Greensboro. And I said, Avery, it's about to happen to this street. Because this is a direct street to the highway. And all this little row of houses over here, we're seeing new houses popping up on both sides of the road. I said, I don't even think the people around them know what's happening. I don't think they know what's happening. And so we want to educate people, and it's important that we make sure we do things so that if we do have an inheritance, if our families do have homes, our loved ones have, the homestead, as they call it, and we've got some relatives still living in there, you need to make sure that you're protecting your property, right? Because I know it's one thing to help people, but they can hurt you in the long run if they're not doing the things to make sure that that property is so that you can make it an investment and continue to, bring that legacy money into your family.
And
Uh,
yes,
it,
and Sean, one thing I want to say to interact what you're saying. The thing was getting people the most is this wonderful word. It's called probate.
mm,
When a person dies, will or no will, you still got to go through the court system. And when you go through probate, you start having to list what this person owns. And depending on if they got things set up correctly, at least through their will, or if they don't have a will, that's two different worlds there.
mm.
And you got to start listing that stuff. And that stuff it's no joke. If the average one is going to last you, if the person's got a house, at least a year to go through probate. And most people are not set up for probate. One thing I can tell people is I'm not just talking. I have 2 homes right now outside the house I live in right now. I have 2 other houses. I still got my mom's house, and now I got my sister's house. Because I know I went through probate and I figured it out
Wow.
enough to where I'm keeping my inheritance. I refuse for those neighborhoods that are right now, because the house directly across the street from one of the houses that I have right now that I made out of Airbnb, that house just sold for $190,000. And the people that owned it, I'm just being honest, I, I looked up the stuff, okay? And let's put it this way, the lady that owns it is probably not somebody that ever lived in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
She just sold the house for $190,000. And I'm going to be honest, my husband and I go and do the landscaping at the Airbnb. And I sit there sometimes in the yard just to watch what's going on. And if I'm correct, the couple that I saw that pulled out one day, and I said, let me see who in it bought that house.
Who bought the house? Mm-hmm.
Let's just say this. It's a different time of season.
They weren't the ones that were living there when
They
you
were
were
not the
growing up.
ones that were living. And this particular road is now they're getting ready to make it, from what I've heard, they're going to make it historic because of so many great Black people that have been inspiring, do things downtown, governors, senators, all that stuff that lived on this in this area. But look at where they buying the houses. You think they didn't do their homework? Just a question. First Black high school for Gifford County is in that neighborhood because I went there.
Wow.
Think they didn't do their research? And it's more homes than that have been bought out.
Yeah.
And I have a passion for just trying to get people to wake up.
Wake up. Wake up. Yeah. So, we have the information up here, the estate planning workshop that Renee is going to be doing starting on Monday. And if you are interested in registering that, you can go to her website. I'm going to put that up for you. Let's see, where is it?
Yes. You go to proficiencycoach.com.
Yeah.
There
Mm-hmm.
you go. And you click on Let's Talk for the workshop info. It immediately gives you its email. You submit that email that you're interested, and there will be forward to you the information for you to sign up for that course.
Right.
And it's very valuable information. I'll tell anybody. I just want the word to get out to people, and that's why I lowered the cost of my workshop. I
Mhm.
want people to understand how to protect their inheritance.
Yeah. And, it seems like a downer conversation. This is not a,
Mhm,
we when we're together, we're talking about health and wellness because
mhm.
that's our thing.
Yeah, yeah.
We also get together and we talk about how we help women, as entrepreneurs, brand themselves, find their passion, do all that kind of stuff. And so then we come to this, but this is your passion. I would often tell people you can tell what your passion is because people pull on you for that information. They get a lot of value, and you love doing it so much that you do it for free. So that's how you can identify. That's really where your passion lies. But people would want to pay you for it. I
Mhm.
often hear people say that to me, you need to be charging for this. You need to be charging for this. And I don't know, maybe one day I will, for the things that I do in coaching, because I think that's one of the things that's on my radar this year. As I work with different people in different scenarios of life, I always call us the life champions. You're going to always see me brand with life champions because I truly believe that it's the Lord that always causes us to triumph. That's my favorite, second Corinthians 2:14. But thanks to be to God who always leads us in triumph in Christ and through us spreads and makes evident everywhere the sweet fragrance of the knowledge of him. That's one of the things I live by. And so I really want to encourage people to find their passions. This right here is not a fun conversation, but it is a very important conversation that you have to have with your loved ones because it's going to happen sooner or later. And it's not just because you have older parents. People our age are dying. We need to have our stuff together for our children. They need to know who is the executress of the estate. They need to know who has health care power of attorney, who has durable power. Who do you have in place for that? Even at our age, because we do our families a disservice if we don't. They can't even grieve. I know of families right now that can't even grieve their loved one because they're trying to pull all the stuff together because it doesn't go away. There's still the settlements that have to happen, right? So what does that look like? Especially when you're the one that's required to do that work. You've been the one who's been assigned that task, and then we didn't even get into the trust because that's a whole nother thing that she does go into as well as another level. But I just encourage you guys. I do know that she knows her stuff and she works hand in hand. She shows you a lot of resources that are for free, that can help you get things in place and not cost you an arm and a leg. So you definitely want to reach out to her. And I'm going to put that information up for you again. Go to proficiencycoach.com and then click on Let's Talk and or learn more. It might be learn more now. I think it's when I clicked up there. And enter your information and then she will contact you with how you can register. So any last thoughts from you, Renee? I appreciate you doing this and I'm so excited to start your class on Monday.
Yes, yes. Well, I have to give a big applause to you, LaShawn. 'Cause like I said, you are the one that inspired me. And I also remember, if you think about this, you got two aunts and uncle, and you had me. I said, LaShawn, I tell you what, if you think I'm good at this, I'm going to write something out and then I'm going to do a presentation. I said, will you allow me to do it for maybe some of your family members? I said, it's free. I just need to know, am I getting the right information?
Mm-hmm.
And I did it for two of your aunts.
Mm-hmm. You sure
And
did.
both of them gave me a love offering. I wasn't charging nothing. They
Mm-hmm.
both were so inspired. But if I'm correct, both their spouses are now deceased.
Yeah.
And one, this is the thing's done. One died an exact year later after we had did it.
Yeah. And you were very helpful in getting some things in place before that transition. So You're doing a great job. I know it's not easy, but you're built for this, you know. And I'm looking forward. She's coming out with a book that is going to help people with knowing how to have those hard conversations with your loved one. I was talking to one of my girlfriends, and you're hearing stuff like, "Oh, well, I don't want to think about that right now. I don't want to think about that right now." And I'm talking this is what our parents are saying, and you sort of don't want to press it because we're not saying, "Hey, we want you to die. We want to get your money." That's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is make sure that, if that time shall come, if that time does come, we have your wishes. We know what you want to happen. That's it. So that we can govern those things accordingly and make sure it happens. And then even talking about I've got to get with I've got some friends I want to reach out to about planning for those things. I mean, who wants to plan for their funeral? Do you have a burial plan? I know we don't want to talk about it. We
I
don't
didn't
want
miss all that. Yep.
but I mean, do you want to be cremated? You know what I'm saying? Or will you have to be cremated? And you know, um, what happens at that point? Where do we put your
Yeah.
remains?
Right.
You
Mhm.
know, in your funeral, some people, I don't want a long drawn out funeral. Don't
Mhm.
do that. And definitely don't have this person speaking. And I want that person to speak and
Mhm.
da da da. Da.
You want to honor
The-
that.
But guess what? These are sideline conversations that nobody has heard but you and me. And when I come and say to the family, well, she wanted or he wanted XYZ, they'll be like, they didn't tell me that. Because nothing is in writing. We've got
Right.
to do a better job. It
Signed
really
documents and end of all strife.
say it again.
A signed document is the end to all strife.
Wow. Well, there you have it, folks. So reach out to Renee. Again, I'll put her website up here. Please share this. This is going to be available on replay from my page and her page. Share it with a loved one. Definitely get in contact with her. You will thank me for the referral. I promise you, because she knows her stuff and you get more than what you expect when you work with her. So we're about to shut it on down. We will be back with some more family talks in 2025. I'm super excited to kick off my very first one of the year with Miss Renee Summers. She is that awesome founder of Gramps for Growth. Can you just real quick tell them what Gramps for Growth is?
Yes, yes. It's actually grandparents, and I tell you this, leaving an inheritance and not a bill. That's the picture. My husband and I are married, and we have two kids, so that's the four in there. But
Mm,
it's grants for growth, so they're growing. We're growing with our families, but we're growing to leave them an inheritance.
yes, yes. I love it. All right. Well, we are about to shut it on down, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for Life Champions Circles Family Talks. My name is LaShawn Williamson, and I have been absolutely excited to be your host today. And I just encourage you guys to share this live, get into her class, pull on her knowledge. She is just a bucket full of knowledge. You will not regret it. And we're going to see you on the next go round. All right. So
All
you
right.
guys have a great evening. Or if you're watching this in the morning, have a great day. God bless you. We'll see you on the other side.